Are you a faith leader struggling to bridge the gap between the timeless biblical truths and the rapidly evolving world of technology? Well, if that's you, my friend, you're in the right place today because my friend Dean Sweetman is the one that can help us to embrace innovation with an entrepreneurial spirit. And through that, we can revolutionize how churches connect, grow, and serve their communities in the digital age. Now, Dean's journey from surfing evangelist to the co-founder and CEO of Tithely, a game-changing digital giving platform, is extraordinary. Growing up in Sydney, Australia, Dean never imagined that one day that he would be at the forefront of church technology, processing billions of dollars in donations and empowering tens of thousands of ministries worldwide. From his radical conversion at age 17 to planting over 50 churches across multiple continents, wow. Dean's path has been marked by a willingness to go wherever God leads, even if that means cold calling churches in foreign countries or embracing cutting edge technology. And it was when he experienced a personal crisis and divinely inspired investment opportunity that he discovered his calling to change church giving and operations through technology. Today, Dean is pioneering the future of church tech, helping ministries of all sizes tap into the power of digital tools to expand their reach and impact. His company, Tithely, now serves nearly 40,000 churches, offering an all-in-one platform that goes far beyond online giving. Now, in this conversation, Dean opens up about his unconventional path to faith, the challenges of navigating personal setbacks, and why he believes embracing AI and other emerging technologies is crucial for the church's future. He shares powerful insights on leadership, innovation, and how to discern God's leading in a rapidly changing world. So whether you're a pastor, ministry leader, faith-driven entrepreneur, or someone that's fascinated by the intersection of faith and technology, Dean's wisdom will leave you encouraged, challenged, and equipped to fearlessly embrace the digital tools that can amplify your mission. So open up your favorite app and join us for this eye-opening conversation with my friend, the innovative and inspiring Dean Sweetman. Enjoy. Trust me, I get it. You're feeling the pressure to keep your faith separate from your work, worried that pursuing your God-given dreams might be seen as selfish or misguided. Here's what I've discovered. Our faith isn't a liability in our leadership. As a matter of fact, it's the source of our strength and wisdom. The real challenge is navigating how to boldly pursue our purpose while staying anchored in our faith. And that's exactly what the Beacon Show is all about. Each week, we bring you biblical wisdom and practical strategies from true beacons, Christian leaders who are illuminating the world. And it's also that you can let your light shine brighter and brighter. I'm Tamara Jackson, and this is The Beacon Show. Well, Dean, welcome to The Beacon Show, where wisdom meets faith and success finds its voice. This has been a conversation that I have really been looking forward to. You and I share a passion for seeing the church, the global church, leverage technology in this day and age. So I just know that this is going to be a huge blessing for our audience. I also know you're a busy guy. So thank you for taking the time to spend time with us today.
My pleasure. My honor.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the humility that I've already picked up from you just in the few minutes that we've been catching up. So I want to start, Dean, from the beginning. Can you take us back to childhood for Dean? What a kid. I know, right? This is a loaded question.
Yeah.
What kid were you? What environment did you grow up in? Take us back in time.
I was a nightmare. I mean, I was an only child.
Me too.
Yep, there you go. We have that in common. Growing up in Sydney, Australia, on the northern part of Sydney, beautiful beach area. Grew up surfing my whole life. And, you know, I was a pretty outgoing kid, pretty sanguine, talk with adults easily. and then just a great, had terrific parents, cousins, and it was back. This is, I was born in 64, so the 70s were my kind of younger years. And man, like the whole street, all the kids would play, we'd get on our bikes, we'd go for 8 hours, we'd come back at dinner. It was just a beautiful, simple time. And so I have very fond memories of that. And then my parents wanted me to go to a private high school. In Australia, high school starts at year 7.
Mm.
And I left all of my friends that I'd spent K through 6 with and went to an all boys Catholic private school, which
Mm.
I protested all the way. But God had a plan. I just didn't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I hated that school. So I left school at the 10th grade.
Oh, wow.
And I'd grown up not really serious about my faith at that point. And then I did a bunch of dead end jobs, tried to become a professional surfer, and that wasn't going to happen.
Mm.
And then I got this job. It was kind of a dead end job.
Mm.
And I met this guy. I'm 17 now. And he had just discovered Jesus, became a born again Christian, little charismatic church in Sydney at the time, 100 people. This is in 1981. And he's like, you got to come to church with me. I said, it's not really my thing. And anyway, the short version is I said, look, I'll go one time if you don't ask me anymore.
If you leave me alone.
Leave me alone. And of course he said, deal. So he picks me up, I go, and I have the most incredible experience. Met Jesus for the first time in a kind of a real way. Then I'm in Bible college, I had a whole series of things that's too long to go into, but there was a mission and we were doing evangelism at this beach camp, and we had a band and everything. The guy who was supposed to speak didn't turn up. And we were doing it with a few local churches, and the guy from the Salvation Army said, young man, you're preaching tonight. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm a Christian for like 5 minutes. And so I do it. I go for it in front of 2,000 people. And our flavor of church was, we did the altar call, we asked people to come out and we pray and we lead them in a prayer. Like 25 people came out the front and let me pray for them. Right. So this is all happening. I'm so young in the faith. I barely, probably doctrinally messed up that prayer, but I'm sure the grace covered it all.
Yes.
And then before I knew it, I was in Bible college and I was doing seminary. I had never read a book in my life, cover to cover. And so it was just kind of, in the deep end. And before you knew it, I was a youth minister, and then I got into missions, and we can talk about the rest. But yeah, it was a great childhood with a kind of a little rebellious streak. And then I found Jesus when I was 17, and away I went.
Wow. I'm curious now. So you have this encounter at 17, and then it sounds like you went all in, like you totally got immersed in church culture.
No, I left all my friends who were going in the wrong direction. I said goodbye to all of them politely.
Wow.
A few years later, I came back and won a few of them to Christ, but I had to get out of that situation that I was in. And so then there was a Christian surf group I helped start, and I just started building community. And this local church was in this, like a little surfing revival, like this is early 80s in Sydney. And man, we were getting 10, 20, 40 people come to Christ every Sunday night. And so I was kind of in the middle of all that. And then, but yeah, that's my personality. If you ask anyone who knows me pretty well, I'm not going to half do something. I'm going to go all in. So
you're going all in. And I read that it was like a surf group. So I'm curious though, because some people would say, well, how does a surf group glorify God? But you guys use that, and I just
totally
to win people to Christ. So that might help somebody. Tell us a little bit about the surf and how it ended up being ministry.
Well, and philosophically, I discovered this. That was the early seed of it. But meeting people where they're at and ministering to people in the midst of just their daily life, rather than, as ministers, we want them to come to church, and people come to church. But really, the Christian surfing group was we pray before we'd have a contest, right? Every month we'd have Thursday night meetings and we'd share and we'd get different speakers and talk about the club and who's winning and who's what. And we watch surf movies. It was all, very rudimentary. And then, but we pray on the beach. And it's just a matter of like, sometimes you got to go to them. I mean, you read the New Testament, you read the book of Acts and you know, it's all go. That's what Jesus said. He said, go. It's like, you got to go. And which to me, is you got to go somewhere and you're going to go out into the highways and the byways and you got to compel them to come in. And so I've always kind of had that kind of philosophical sense about evangelism. I did 10 years as an evangelist in Asia and Africa, mostly in Australia. And I would look up church. This is how old I am. I'd find the yellow pages
Right.
and I'd find like one time I just had this kind of I wanted to go to Sri Lanka, which is the little island underneath India. I'd been in and out of India a lot, did a lot of ministry, and I just flew there on the way home. Got the phone book. Go to this hotel. I got the phone book and I'm looking for Christian church, and it's a Buddhist country, and I see 6 or 7 churches. So I'm like, Lord, which one should I call? So I make a phone call. This happened, I can't tell you, maybe this happened 20 times in different countries. Hey, my name's Dean. I'm an evangelist. I'd love to take the pastor to lunch. And then there'd be a little pause of silence.
Yes.
And then they're like, I don't believe, you wouldn't believe what we've just been praying that God would send us someone to help us with ministry. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's me, but let's go. And so I literally would cold call, like, in the business world, right? In
Yes.
sales, your
Yes.
cold calling is a thing.
Yes.
And it's the hardest part about sales, right? I was cold calling to do ministry and create kind of this evangelistic, kind of teaching ministry in the like late 80s, 90s by just cold calling around. I'd go to India and I'd have one like address of some nun that was in the back of New Delhi, like 2 hours, and I'd just get out there and of course there's a prayer meeting going on and they've been praying for someone to come. So I got 100 of those stories, and it's just kind of who I am.
Yeah, but do you remember though, Dina, where did that start? Like, were you literally always the person that would just, when somebody's looking for something, you just say, I go, or you just look for opportunities, or did someone or something instill that in you when you were growing up?
Yeah, I wouldn't have called myself a leader naturally pre, meeting the Lord. I was a fun guy. I was a fun guy of the group. I didn't develop leadership skill or discover who I really was until I found myself in Christ. And then, and this is, I love to tell young people this, it's like, once you find that purpose in God and it is to serve him first and nothing comes before him, then all of a sudden you start, and there's another component, you serve someone else's vision and then God will give you your own. So the whole story of how I got to the US is I was selling cassette tapes, right? That's how old I am again. At the conference for my pastor, and he's preaching and I'm selling the tapes. And that's how I got to America. I met a guy, he asked me to come preach for him. And then it's a long story, but it's like, so you serve others and then in Christ, you start to discover your purpose and you're discovering your gifts and your strengths and what you're good at and what you're not good at. And then, I'm a believer in find your strengths and get those really, like get those to a 9 out of 10. And the things you're not good at, don't sweat it. Like get people around you that are good at those things that you're not. And then together you go achieve a lot of things. But yeah, it's just the kind of mentality I had. But it was really after meeting Jesus that I discovered that kind of sense of purpose. And then I read The Economist, which is like a business magazine. I read it cover to cover, still do, 30 something years. So I'm geopolitical economics. I'm pretty tuned in. Obviously I read the Bible a lot, but I started devouring, a lot of books on leadership and just kind of self-taught myself a lot of things. I had good people around me.
Yeah. That when you were talking about developing your strengths and kind of making them 9 or 10, it reminds me of something that I've heard John Maxwell say. He's like,
I
listen,
know,
no
John. Yeah.
days for No one pays for sixes and sevens and eights. Like you got
Exactly.
to be a nine or a 10. And that's
Yep.
such great wisdom, right? Is to figure out, what has God already gifted me with? Where am I skilled and talented? And let me
Yep.
maximize those. And then for the other things, like, yeah, I can
Yeah.
work on it and I might get a little bit better, but I might not ever be a nine or a 10. So I just
No.
to be in relationship with others that can
Yep.
fill in those gaps, right?
Absolutely. I'm not an administrator. I'm not very good at those kind of details, you know. Now, I'm competent enough. You know, I run a pretty big company and have
Yeah.
180 employees, and, you know, we're dealing in, you know, kind of a lot of moving parts here. So, but again, you know, I got all these people around me that are 10 times better than me. And a lot of the time it's pride where we think we have to do everything, we have to be good at everything. You don't. Just be good at the things God gave you naturally, develop those things, and you'll find the doors will open for you to go and, you know, kind of grow and win in those kind of environments where God leads you down. But you got to develop skills, and
Develop.
education is critical.
Mm,
Um, you know, like you just think about, I have a heart for like seeing kids come out of poverty,
mm,
right? And apart from a walk of faith, really the ticket out is education.
mm, mhm,
You know, if you can, we can teach young people like the facts of life and how things really work. And I'm a total free market capitalist. If you can instill the values early on of personal responsibility,
mm,
promotion by merit, like all these things that develop us as great human beings, then
yeah.
you give kind of God something to work with, and
Mm.
then all of a sudden together you're unstoppable.
I love that. And yeah, I'm getting so excited because these are things that I don't often hear.
Mhm.
I think sometimes when we are in Christian circles, we are so focused, which is critically important, on our spiritual life, right? And the time that we're investing in prayer and
Yep.
uh, in the reading the Bible, and all of these
Yep.
things are critically important. And there are some other things that we can do. I love the way you said that, to give God something to work with. And a lot of what
Yep.
I heard you say is really around how we're teaching young people and how we're conditioning ourselves to think about
Mhm.
our life, the impact that we can have. And
Yep.
so there's a bit of mindset work that we
Oh
must
yeah.
do in partnership with
Yep.
developing our spiritual life. And I heard you say
Absolutely.
books was important in that. What else would you say has really helped you develop your mindset as a leader?
Yeah, you know, I obviously read all the Maxwell, like all the usual
Yeah,
suspects, right, from in the 80s and 90s. I read them all and love it. Got to know John kind of like, you know, in different circles. So I devoured a lot of that, a lot of self-help. And but I was in sales, you know, before I was in ministry, I sold real estate, I sold advertising, and I typically work for 6 months and then go out on the mission field for 6 months.
got it.
And so, you know, I just developed my skills as someone who could, you know, promote the benefits of a product so well that the person had to buy it because they thought they needed it. And so I did that. The fast forward, you know, I'm a podcast guy now. Like I'll listen to books. I don't sit down and read a lot of books anymore, but I'm always learning. Now I read 3 AI blogs a day. I read 4 other tech blogs a day. They drop in my inbox. I spend 30
Mhm.
minutes quiet time, Bible prayer, and then probably 2 hours of devouring, consuming a lot of tech, AI, business, newsletters, you know, different stuff. And then I got 4 or 5 podcasts I like to listen to that are more, some are informational, some are inspirational. Um, it just depends on kind of what mood I'm in, but you got to be a lifelong learner. That's the
Mhm.
point. You have
I
to
love
be hungry. Like you know, AI comes along like 2 years ago,
it.
and I was fortunate. I was at a CEO conference, and it's just kind of rumbling. And I could see it early, and I'm like, man, we've got to get all over this, like the church.
Yeah.
And I just came back from this conference and I signed every employee up to the $20 version of ChatGPT. I said, if you're not using it every day,
Mm,
right, there's something wrong. And AI is not going to take your job. It's going to take the
right.
jobs of people that don't know how to use it. I've
Tell
told
us
the
that.
story of the IBM golf ball typewriter, right?
Hmm.
And that used to sit on a desk, and there were people when, Microsoft Word came out, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to use a computer. I'm going to stick to my IBM
Yep.
typewriter. And it's like, no, that thing's going to die, and you better learn this new technology, otherwise you won't have a job. And so that's the whole mindset around technology, right? Whether in the church, in ministry, or just in life,
Yeah.
if you're not learning it, embracing it, there are other people that will. And there's probably in our lifetime, you got the internet in the 90s, you got mobile, right? In like the, like 2009, and you got AI.
Yeah.
Those are the three biggest things in the last 30 years that maybe since the Industrial Revolution of the late 19th century. Like there's these things that come along, and we've had three in our lifetime:
Yeah.
the internet, mobile, and AI. Now that shows me things are speeding up.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I've always been uh, very forward when it comes to embracing technology. It was even when I was a pastor, like I would get the latest computer, I would get all the programs on it. My oldest son became a computer engineer, self-taught, built our first GitHub.
Self-taught. Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, you got to, but it's a mindset. You can't be afraid of it. So I developed some sermon writing AI tools with some of the team here, and literally you can basically create a sermon, take your thought, take your verse, develop the points. Now you have to preach it, and you have to
Yep.
get the spirit on you to, release the truth that's in the message. But yeah, I was doing that very early. Like we had that product up a year ago. And
Hmm.
so the mindset is I'm not going to be afraid of things that are new. I'm going to embrace them. I'm going to learn. I'm going to commit to becoming proficient. And then I'm going to apply these tools when I think they're going to suit me and whoever else, whatever I'm doing at the time. But that mentality is key to
Hmm.
just about everything in life.
I agree with you 100%, and I hope that our viewing and our listening audience is hearing your heart here, because you served. And if I read your bio correctly, you served in ministry for 30 years, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
while
right.
you have, and I loved how you explained, hey, I worked some, and then I worked in the mission field some. So you really have a pretty balanced experience of business world
Yep.
and working in ministry, and you see value in both, and in both
Absolutely.
spaces you were always open to learn and continuing to develop your skills,
Hmm.
working on your mindset, taking in new information. And sometimes when I talk with leaders, there is this fear and this hesitation around AI. Uh,
Hmm.
but as you have shared, perhaps it really is at its root an inability at times to be open to
Yep.
new things, right? And I've
Yep.
heard some people. I want to get your thoughts on this now, because I also, in addition to my work at Beaconship, I'm honored to lead a community of Christian authors from all over the globe. And we did a survey once where we asked the author community about the use of AI in helping them to write their books and do
Right.
social media. And so someone told me that nothing, I don't think I'll ever forget it, nothing should take the place of the Holy Spirit in crafting our messages and in
Right.
writing. And so some of us are viewing AI as something that works against
Right.
our spiritual life and the Holy Spirit navigating in our lives. But what I'm hearing you say is, hey, it's possible for the two to work together. And it sounds like that's what you've been encouraging your leaders to do. Help me to reconcile that,
Uh-huh.
help that person that doesn't
Yeah.
see that. How do you see that?
So the foundation that I approach things like this from is greater is he that is in me
Mm,
than he that is in the world. And so when John wrote that, that people, there was different times and they were afraid of the devil and the devil's after them. I said, small devil, big
mm,
God.
yeah.
That's how you have to, you got to set your mind like that. God is bigger. and that God is in me. So I can approach a new subject like AI, and then I'm going to use the gift of discernment that everyone has been given, and I'm going to go, hey, this had its root. So when the internet first came along, right? And has the internet been used for bad things? My goodness, absolutely. Horrible things. Think about the pornography, think about the hate, think about disinformation, think about all the things that the internet has done in the world. Social media, like most social media executives in Silicon Valley are not letting their children on social media, and they sell it for a living. Okay, so that tells you everything. So we've got the internet, and it's been used for bad, and the church was slow. So it's like, oh, I'm not sure about that. And then, man, we got a website. And so fast forward, now I have YouTube and I have access to billions of people. And I can literally take my ministry. So in COVID, we have a website platform that we sell to churches, and we built in YouTube Live like in like 2 weeks. And apart from needing digital giving, which is kind of our main business, we thought, man, we've got to help our customers get the message out because no one could go to church. So think about all the good now yeah, the internet can be used for bad and the internet can be used for good. AI can be used for bad, but it can also be used for good. We're still at the AOL stage of AI. We're just starting. Right.
Right.
We're literally in like 1995 of the AI. And so when we used to dial in with the modem and,
Yes.
right?
So
Remember
slow.
that?
So
Oh,
slow.
terrible, terrible. And then, so it's like, yeah, you've just got to have this mindset that I'm going to learn, I'm going to discern, and I'm going to take out some things in here that can really be helpful to me and my mission, my work, my marriage, whatever it is, and just not be afraid. And you can't live with fear. When you're a Christian and your true sense of calling and destiny is wrapped up not in who you are or how good you are or how smart you are or how rich you are or how what you are. It's all in Christ. And so I can go into I can go into the darkness because I'm bringing the light, and the light expels the darkness. And so why would I be afraid to look at a new technology when the greater one is inside of me? So that's where I start, right? And then it's just a matter of, okay, I'm just going to go learn. I'm going to get all the information I can. I'm going to discern. No, 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 no. Oh, yeah, that's good. And then you just keep layering that mindset on everything you do. And so you just take that everywhere in life. And God opens doors, miracles happen, hard work produces great fruitfulness, and it all just kind of works together for good.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly can see that in your life as I read your bio and I look at the work that your organization is doing now. I just want to take in a quick second, Dean, to fill in the blank there. So how did you I read this, but I want our audience to get this. How did you get from serving in ministry to leading this great organization that's helping ministries to get their donations in through technology? What prompted the switch?
There's two versions, and I'm going to give you there's the sanitized version, but I'm going to give you the whole version. Okay.
Okay, give it to me
quickly. So 10 years in the mission field, evangelism, came to the US in 96, planted a church in Atlanta, Georgia, ended up planting about 60 churches in the US, Canada, 20 years in. I had the idea for giving with the phone. When the phone had come out, and the App Store came out a few years later, the early Apple made apps, and then they let third-party people put apps on the phone. I downloaded the Starbucks app. I put my debit card inside the Starbucks app. I go and buy a coffee. I said, I'm using the app. The girl's like, what app? I'm like, your app. So I dinged it. The ticket came out, and this is in 2012. And she's like, wow. I'm like, wow. And I'm like, man, giving should be that easy. That was the moment. Just speed, right? And I, for 5 years, trying to get recurring giving and all kinds of giving kind of options on the church website. And we did okay. It was tough, not the technology back then. But anyway, so I'm in this kind of have this idea. My son builds the first product, the first giving app, like part-time in his room at night, and he comes out because I said, fine, we got to get giving in the phone.
Yeah.
You got to go and work it out. So he comes back, he is in the app store. I stand up in front of my own church, and tens of thousands of dollars started coming in via the app.
Hmm.
But so that was that. And then I had a few friends. It was like a hobby business. And then I went through a devastating personal kind of situation with my marriage. I ended up getting divorced, which was the hardest thing I've ever walked through, but gives me a lot of empathy, right, for people who've been through similar things. I took a year and a half off. I was pretty, didn't think I was going to go back into ministry. I was kind of not real excited about it. So I just moved to LA, had one son there at the time, grandkids, and just kind of took a year and a half off. Through I just needed emotionally to get my self-confidence back a bit because, ministry, marriage, it's all tied together. When it
Sure.
doesn't go, I was married for 30 years, so I was there a long time. But, if it's tragedy, if there's something that's, causes a marriage to end, it just really gutted me so I lost a lot of confidence so I take this time off and then I'm really just, oh my God, what do you want me to do? Like, I know I'm not done, and I think I have more to do. I'm not sure what it is. And so I'm praying and I'm working out and then I had a call from an investor who was in the payment space, but not in the faith vertical. He was in another vertical. It was actually K through 12 schools. And they were moving tuition over to ACH, credit debit. And he's like, we think the faith thing, giving is going to be a thing. And we had this basic product and he said, like, can we back you? And I'm like, oh, okay, God, is that is that you? Right? I didn't. These
Hello?
guys literally, no, they found me and Barn on the internet and 100 Barn down. We go to San Diego, we meet him, and like there's a check in my mailbox, like a week later, and I'm starting this company for real. It's like I go incorporate, I go and do all the things.
Wow.
Um, so it was literally, and then in the early, we rebuilt the website, and literally the early days was me with a Google phone number connected to my phone. The phone number's on the website, and I start taking calls, and my partner
That's
who's still
hilarious.
with me, and he's a COO. He's like, man, we've got to this content marketing, we've got to write blogs, and we've got to do targeted ads. And I'm like, I didn't know anything about this. And
Wow.
so all of a sudden the phone starts ringing
Hmm.
to the point within 6 months, I had to turn it off because it was like literally it would go
Too
all night.
much.
It was too much.
Wow.
So then we hired our first employee, and he got the phone and he had to answer all the calls, and I was still answer a bunch of calls. And so, yeah, that was 2015. And the same skills that you use to lead a ministry are the same skills that you use to lead in business,
Hmm.
identical, overlaid with our faith and our morals and the way we like to treat people and the way we're commanded to, treat people and love people and honor people. So you're overlaying that, but the skills of leading are kind of, they work everywhere. And so I'm applying that and the company's growing and, you know, March 2020, like right before the lockdown, we had 12,000 customers.
Mm.
I remember in April of 2016, we're a year in, and we did the first $1 million in a month of giving. And I'm like, I thought that was going to take my whole life, right?
Wow.
And then, right? And so then I'm like, oh, then we got to like 100 million in giving. It was like 2 years. So fast forward, I think we're in the hundreds of millions at this point. We had 12,000 churches. We onboarded 12,000 churches in 6 weeks when COVID hit. I had to hire 40 people,
Crazy.
temps, right? Because we have to, there's a lot of self sign up, but we still have to make sure you're real. Like this, believe it
Yeah.
or not, I have a fraud department because people start fake accounts.
Yep.
So we're
I believe.
doing all this. And then just kind of, I think we're up to 8 billion now in so now we'll do we do a couple billion a year now, and it's still growing because there's still probably out of the 135 billion given to churches in the US, you've got sectors of it that are not really gettable.
Hmm.
The synagogues, the Mormons do it a bit different, but that kind of Protestant evangelical is about 90 billion.
Hmm.
I'm doing two. I have competitors that do two or one. My guess is there's 60 billion in cash and check still, and mostly in smaller churches in the middle of the country.
Hmm.
And those are the like friends of ours that go, oh, I'm not sure about online giving. That's that group. And
Hmm.
so we see hundreds of them a month sign up for our services and our software. It's just kind of word of mouth now. But that's been the journey. And then, just it's beyond, it's just beyond
I'm sitting here
whatever
like,
I could have dreamed.
no way. Like there's people that are just their jaws have dropped. I'm sure they're looking at their phone if they're listening via audio, and they're like, there's no way someone just called you and asked if they could back you and wrote you a check. That's just
Uh-huh.
almost
Uh-huh.
unbelievable.
And we
But
met, we met once.
one time. But it started, though, if I heard you right, though, it started with you being in a posture of, God, what do you want me to do?
And some days, Tamara, I wouldn't think I was worthy enough to do anything.
Hmm.
There were days where I just had no confidence. And I'm glad that call didn't come earlier on because I
Wow.
was just dealing with all the junk of getting through that period. And I was 18 months in, like, of healing, right? Let's just call it that. And so I was like literally like, oh, I might just go. There's an island in the Philippines that I
Hmm.
ministered at, and there's great surf there, and I could live on the beach for like $10 a week. I had like literally that plan, and I had this app thing that was nothing. And I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? And I don't know what I would have done if that hadn't happened, but it did. And that kind of changed the trajectory. And I got back on really the plan of God for my life. I wasn't supposed to live on some island and surf and be some beach
Hmm.
bum. That's not what I was called to do. And so there you go.
I, oh, there's so many. I don't even know if you realize that you're sharing them, but there's so much wisdom in that. Is you were still dealing with a very human emotion of disappointment and
Failure.
hurt, and I don't know, you were going through all of that,
Yeah.
yet still something in you was like, God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And you even said another piece that I heard is that you're glad the call didn't come sooner, because if
Incorrect.
it had,
I'd have
you
probably said no.
not have said, yeah, you said no because you just weren't in the space to be able
Nope.
to even receive what God wanted to do.
Yep. I needed to get healed. I needed to get I need to face some of my own demons and some of divorce is never one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's usually things, there's sometimes it can be lopsided, but in my situation, it was just, we're both kind of killing each other emotionally. And it was just got to the point where I was sick, she was sick. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I needed to get in the right frame so I could receive. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we jump to the thing, to the thing, to the thing, and you didn't stop
Yeah.
and right and just go, hang on, I need some healing here. Or I need to get around some people that can just kind of, I had some really great people in my life that believed in me, but you're feeling down on yourself when you have a failure like that. And it's like, so there's no shortcut. You just got to go through. And
Gotta
so
go.
I did get in a better place, and I was just and when it came, it was the right time, and I was ready, and I didn't even hesitate. I just went, boom, let's go.
I was going to ask you that. Did you second guess at all? But because the healing had taken place, you were
Yeah,
now ready and you were able to jump
yeah.
all in. And look at what God has done. I'm just hearing your testimony of
Hmm.
the amount of transactions that are happening on
Oh,
this
it's insane.
phone,
Yeah,
that if
I
you had
know.
said yes, gosh,
Yeah,
what in the world would we, in
yeah.
thinking about times like COVID, it's
Right.
truly mind blowing. I want to talk a little bit though about another piece of your mindset that I admire when I go on the Tithely site, and you alluded to this earlier about the website tool. You guys don't just do donate on
No, we do it
app.
all.
You
Yeah,
expanded into all of this other stuff. So
yeah,
tell us about how that came to be. What
yep.
in you as a leader said, hey, I can't just stop here. There's more for us to do.
Early on, when you provide a service like digital giving, that's called an endpoint solution. It's a one thing. And some companies do really good at doing one thing and doing it the best in the world.
Yeah.
And so, but kind of early on, as we talk to customers, um, you know, I could see with websites, apps, database management, media, email, communications, text, like all of these technologies were emerging, but they're all coming from point solutions.
Mm.
And we were the first, I think, to basically, in our mentality was this needs to be all in one.
Mm.
It all needs to talk to each other. It needs to stay really simple because our customer is Betty the bookkeeper. She's a volunteer. She's 2 days a week. She's not super tech savvy. We've got to build software for Betty.
Mm.
And then we've got to connect it so there's these other modules so we could see that pretty early. So we acquired some tech and we built some tech to the point now where we're just about finished, like seamlessly having everything where we want it. And then my strategy was to be the low, it's like payments as a business is a commodity. It just gets lower and lower and lower. So you got to add value with other ways, and we add value with software stacked on top.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we can provide everything, just about everything a church needs. And we give these away to church plants for the first year or two, but $119 a month is all your giving solution, website, custom app, database management tool, free media tool, social media management, text giving, text communication, email communication. So that adds up to about $600 a month if you went and got them all. And
Yep.
ours is 120. And so that's what we saw. I saw that pretty early. And so now, and of course, I went for the small medium market. I had competitors that went to the mega church.
Mm.
We serve a lot of mega churches, but we didn't start there.
Yeah.
We went, how can we help a 100-member church get the 10 credit card givers
Mm.
to use our product?
Hmm.
Well, come to find out, when you get tens of thousands of churches doing that, that's a business. And like
Yeah.
we're approaching 40,000 churches now, and we'll be 50,000 by the end of next year. And
Yeah.
so it's just, small, but the other thing is like, if there's 10 digital givers in a church today, next year there'll be 13, then there'll be 16. And we ask this question all the time. Why did you sign up? Well, we had this young couple and they joined the church and they don't have a checkbook and they asked us how we can give online. And so they go on Google search church online giving, and up we come, and away we go. So it's the whole market is kind of coming to us too, in the sense, like, think about when you went to the gas station the last time, you'd put the credit card straight in the browser, in the thing, right? Dry
Absolutely.
cleaning, restaurant. So church giving is the last big holdout of cash and check. And in 20 years, it'll all be gone. It'll all be
Yeah,
digital.
yeah, yeah. We're getting there, and I
Yeah.
think that would be a great way to segue into the Modern Church Leaders Conference that you guys
Yep.
have coming up in October. Talk to us about the importance of this conference and what you want
Yeah.
to accomplish for the leaders that come and attend.
Yeah. It's a combination of users. So we're inviting all of our customers to come and do tracks and come and really delve into, our software. We try so hard to make it simple, but there's things hidden inside there that our users don't even know is there.
Yeah.
And so it's part user conference. So if use any of our software, there'll be outbreak sessions for you where you can really take advantage of, how great the software is. And then but tech in church in general, right? So we want to be educational. So we're marketing to not just our customer base, and we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we have a lot of customers there. There's thousands of churches in DFW area. So we're marketing there. And it's essentially users plus any church leader that wants to embrace and utilize and get the most out of technology, we'll have a fantastic event, and you'll come away like your head will be exploding with ideas, and hopefully you'll be inspired, and because the philosophy of this too, this does not replace ministry.
That's good.
Technology should enhance ministry, multiply ministry, make ministry more productive. It's not going to do the work for you. It's just going to make you better at what you do.
Yes.
And pretty much for technology wherever, right? Like I've got a computer and I'm using Zoom today and we're chatting, and like 20 years ago, imagine trying to do this. We would have flown somewhere, we would have set up cameras, we'd have been in some hotel somewhere, we had been lighting, the thing would have cost a fortune, and we wouldn't have done it. Now, like fast forward, now this is costing us an hour of our time. We're having a great time, and you're going to go take this and send it out to your listeners and the people that follow you and want to hear what you're talking about next. And it's just an awesome time to be alive. So yeah, I just think so we want to take the fear walls down when it comes to tech, and really make sure everyone who comes leaves thinking, I might not be able to use everything, but I can use that. And I can do that this year, and maybe we'll do that next year. And so that's the plan.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm looking at the time. I do it every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? So I want to respect your time, Dean. I appreciate you being here. So I want to kind of wrap us up, if you will, by thinking about two things. You have had an amazing journey with God, yet it has not been without challenge, personal challenge, and I'm sure professional challenges as well. When you think about that leader that's coming up behind you, I wonder, what advice would you give to them as they're seeking to make impact for Christ?
Yeah, look, it's I don't give a lot of advice out, right? But unless I'm asked, and you've asked me, so I'm going to say some things. I think if you're in your 20s, you want to be trying to work out like who you are, what you're good at, and just go deep into personal development. In your 30s, you're executing on something. If you're supposed to start a business, maybe you learn a bunch of stuff in your 20s, found out who you were, what you're good at. In your 30s, you're trying to get some runs on the board. And sometimes it goes quick, sometimes it doesn't. So there's persistence involved. By the time you hit your 40s, you should be like, that wind is blowing, man. You got that sail up and you're going. And you picked a destination and you're on the way. Now, does God give us opportunities to change course? Absolutely. In fact, sometimes you have to change course. So if I'm talking to a young leader, you want to be all in on what you're doing, and you want to run as hard as you can. You want to surround yourself with the best people that you can. They're going to be positive and uplift you and call you out when you need it. But you're also, if you run into a brick wall, see, yet the younger Dean would keep running at the wall until it broke or I broke. Most of the time I broke. The older, wiser Dean is, I come to a locked door, and if the key isn't under the mat or somewhere in reach, I'm moving on. Because I'm not going to waste time trying to unlock a door where God hasn't given me the keys. And that might take 6 months. It might take me 3. It might take me a year to work out, this is the wrong direction. Have the courage to say, I just wasted that 6 months. And, when you're building products like we do software, we've been down some rabbit holes, and you have, it costs a lot of money to build software, like millions of dollars. We just redid our app. I can't even tell you how many millions of dollars it cost. Like if you want, Dean, I have an idea for an app. Oh, great. Well, it's 2 million in 2 years before you even do anything. And man, we went some wrong directions, and of course, then you got to go time out, and I got to flush that experience down the toilet, and we got to go over here because that's all locked up. So I think you got to be, leaders by definition, very passionate, very focused, very driven. But you got to realize sometimes the lighthouse is flashing, you know, adjust your course. And you're like, no, that's where I'm supposed to go. And well, next minute you're on the rocks and you're sinking. You should have taken the heat of the sign to make a shift. So those are some things, you know, the people who you associate with is probably the biggest thing, right? Beyond the obvious of self-knowledge and, you know, becoming better at everything. But being around the right people is so helpful. If you're in a toxic environment, if you're around people that are not, you know, believing in the direction that you're going and don't want to see you succeed, being around people that love to see you succeed is like awesome. It's just fuel. Just makes you want to get up day and make them proud, you know, and then go and do what you're supposed to do. But you know, those things are good, and then make adjustments as you need to, and stay humble. I'm 60 this year, and I play golf with some buddies here in my neighborhood, and we all joke around. You know, we're like, I started playing golf with my dad before school when I was 10. I've been playing this stupid game for 50 years, and I still suck at it like half the time.
You're not any better.
I'm better. I have my moments.
Marginally better.
But I'll go and have 8 great holes and like 10 terrible ones. And it's like, you don't know everything. And you're always working on stuff and you're always tweaking stuff and you're always, and like, I'm, you know, 60, I don't have any plans on stopping anytime soon. You know, I've got tons of energy and I love what I do. But it's like, yeah, it's every day you're going to learn something new and you can't be afraid of that.
Can't be afraid. Yeah, that's been a theme through what you shared with us today. Don't be afraid. I love what you said earlier. You know, this thing may be big, but God is bigger. You and God together can do it. Let's transition to this final thought around legacy. You mentioned that you're 60. You don't have any plans to stop anytime soon. And I'm rooting for you guys and all of the work that you're doing. At the same time, the reality is at some point our time is up. So for you, when you think about legacy, what is it that you personally want to be remembered for?
Yeah. You know, I'm obviously my family. I have 5 grandchildren now, right? So there's that whole part of my world that I love. You know, but people that I've met over the years, I hope that they've enjoyed the encounter, whether it's their long-term friendships that I've had for 30 or 40 years, or they're people I just randomly meet. And I may see them once, and I might meet them at a conference or in an event or something. And I hope I left a good impression. I hope I glorified God. You know, I hope I inspired them if I had the opportunity to do that. But honestly, you know, I'm going to be gone and buried and in heaven, and I'll be in the next phase, right? The eternity phase. And you just hope when people think of you that they have like wonderful, beautiful thoughts. And you know, I've met some very famous people over the years who are passed, and they inspired me when I was younger. And I think about them, or I'll read something, and I'll just have the best memory. And so could I create good memories for people that when I'm gone, they'll think of me and go, man, that was good. He was a good guy. He was real. He was genuine. And so nothing loftier beyond that. I hope I left a good impression about my faith and my values, that people, you know, it speaks to them when they think about that.
Well, I can say that you have left such a great impression on me, and I believe our listening audience. Just your passion for what you do, your vulnerability, your wisdom, so much of it throughout our conversation. So I just want to express to you thanks on behalf of all of our listeners. I look forward to meeting you in person at the conference. I will see you there.
Yeah.
Until then, we certainly wish you God's best, Dean. Thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.